what I would say is that the makeup removal process, once the adhesives go on and the rubber bits, you're wearing them all day, then the removers like kind of that's kind of like exfoliating. I'm a big fan of exfoliation. I think that keeps us young and vital, because then your skin wants to rejuvenate once it's been, the outside layer's been stripped off. I think that's. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dermatologist. I don't know, but it seems to work for me.
I'm so excited
Sure.
to be able to talk to you about some of your projects. I have been a fan of yours for decades, so this is a real pinch me moment for me. Um,
Well, here goes.
well, first off, if you could estimate at this point, how much time do you think that you've spent under prosthetics of some
Right.
kind?
Right. Yeah, I should have started tallying that up at the beginning, but not knowing the career that I was in for, I've lost count of the hours by now, by
Yeah.
a long shot. In fact, even the Guinness Book got a hold of me to ask about like a current, like, yeah, because there's someone in the Guinness Book that has the most number of creature makeups applied to him. And they had a number that was really, really high. And I'm like, well, I let him keep it because I don't think that and who knows what those makeups were for, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I was a better statistician.
I feel like that would be a real hard thing to keep track of. But they always say
Right.
it's like what, 10,000 hours to become an expert at something?
I probably have clocked that by now, I'm going to guess.
Well, and I always think of the practical side of filmmaking. So, how's your skin holding up after all of these transformations that you've undergone over the decades?
Well, I'm 64 years old, so you tell me. I don't know. Do I look fabulous?
I think you look great, but you're the one that would know if the glue sticks a little hard, or
Yeah.
if it's a
Well,
little harder these days than it was earlier.
yeah, well, what I would say is that the makeup removal process, once the adhesives go on and the rubber bits, you're wearing them all day, then the removers like kind of that's kind of like exfoliating. I'm a big fan of exfoliation. I think that keeps us young and vital, because then your skin wants to rejuvenate once it's been, the outside layer's been stripped off. I think that's. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dermatologist. I don't know, but it seems to work for me.
Yeah. Well, and one of my favorite roles of yours is the Baron on What We Do in the Shadows. Your
Why,
comedic
thank you, darling.
your comedic timing is absolutely incredible there. Did
Oh,
you
thank
ever anticipate being able to come back to the show so many times?
Nope, I did not. In fact, when they first offered the guest role in the pilot episode, season one, episode one, that's all I was ever supposed to do. The Baron has come to check up on his minions, that he sent to the New World to conquer. They haven't made it out of Staten Island, and he's like, well, and he was kind of stupid about it himself until he went back to sleep in his coffin, and they were going to send my coffin down the river and never see from me again or hear from me again. So, but while we were filming the pilot, one of the showrunners, Jermaine Clement, one of the creators of the movie too, and played in it, he said, Doug, we're having too much fun with you. Would it be okay if I found a way to bring you back again? I'm like, yes. So then episode six of season one was The Baron's Night Out, which was probably the funniest half hour of television in history, I think. When we had a night on the town and we drank the, drug blood from, these raving kids, and it was just one tomfoolery after. And the scene that gets noted the most is when I wanted to try this pizza pie. I want the pizza pie. And they're like, "Well, Baron, you really shouldn't." And well, human food and vampires don't mix. We found that out the hard way when he took one bite and then spewed projectile vomit throughout the sky as he was shot around. And the longer that went on, the funnier it got. So that episode, at the end of that episode, the front door opens and I burn up by the sun. That was supposed to be the end of me. Well, Jermaine Clement said the same thing while we were filming that episode. Doug, we're having far too much fun with you. If I find a way to magically bring you back from this burned up sun state of yours, would be yes, 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 please, yes. And at the time, we were filming that show in Toronto, up in Canada. Well, Star Trek Discovery, that I was a series regular on, was also filming in Toronto, in Canada. So the two productions talked to each other to try to and arrange my schedule to when I could come back again. So in season three, that's when they revived the Baron out of the backyard, buried with a half a carcass burned. and brought him back to. He never died.
Yeah.
So it was just a hilarious premise. They jump the ship, as we say in the business, so much in this show. Everything is outlandish and preposterous, and it's all for the funny. So it works somehow. And then after I was burned and crispy, I came back. I'm back in the show now, living out at an Airbnb farmhouse with the sire and the hellhound. And then season four, Nandor wants to get married and wants me to officiate the wedding. Oh, please don't! I don't. Oh, I can't. They look at me. I'm an embarrassment. Well, so he uses a genie wish to revive me to a younger self. So it's basically Doug Jones with a wig on, which was a gift from the writers. Uh, you know. So then at the end, then in season five, when I come back with that look, I get burned by the sun another time after chasing Guillermo around an episode, and so now that's the last time you saw me in season five was st a little crisped again, but still alive and kind of happy about it. Like I love looking scary. So season six is coming, our final season. The Baron will make a few more appearances in this season, and when you see me for the first time again, I will have yet a different look, and we're going to find out why. I'll explain it all to you on camera when you see me.
Just as a little aside, I should tell you because I always end up watching the shows on Hulu, but my
Mhm.
parents watch them as they air. I
Old
will
school on it.
always I will always
Yes.
get a text if the
Oh,
Baron is on because they're so
oh, really?
excited. Yeah, and we all love the Baron
Oh,
so much. So they were so
well,
pumped that I was talking to you today.
well, please hug on the parents for me. The Baron loves them back.
Well, and I have to ask, what is your favorite aspect of being part of that show? Because I can imagine there's so many different things so many different things to like choose from since it's such a popular TV show.
Right. Well, having played for 38 years under lots of rubber bits and playing lots of monsters and creatures and fantastical characters, vampires had intrigued me for a long time, and I hadn't played them for a long time, for most of my career. Then I got to play a stinger kind of a vampire, one of the ancients in the Strain, Guillermo del Toro's series.
Hmm.
And but that wasn't quite the fangy folklore, ones that we know of. So then I had the chance to do two things happen at once. Nosferatu, the movie we're also talking about today, Nosferatu, a Symphony of Horror. Um, that was presented to me as, hey, do you want to play Count Orlok? And I'm like, he's my dream. Yes. But then when What We Do in the Shadows came along, uh, the Baron is very much a mocker, kind of a send up of Nosferatu. He's a pointy-eared, bedraggled looking, wrinkly old vampire, and but that's all for the funny. So to answer your question specifically, what I love playing in the vampire lore, but making it all for the funny. I love comedy. I grew up on sitcoms and variety shows. Laughing was part of the reason I wanted to get into show business in the first place. I always wanted to be in a sitcom. I always wanted to be the goofy next door neighbor that comes in and does an armpit fart, says something funny, and leaves. Right? That's all I had. I had very low aspirations for my career, and so to Shadows kind of combined what I'm known for, like as rubberized monster boy and comedy. It brought my worlds together. And now that they've taken the rubber off of me, and I get to be more of a FaceTime person on the show, it's like really living those childhood dreams of mine. So that's what it means to me more than anything is like, wow, it's like they've been reading my emails all these years and reading my heart to put me on a very, very funny show.
Yeah. When you brought up how the Baron is very similar, it is like almost a parody of Orlok.
Yeah,
So
right.
when going into Nosferatu, a Symphony of Horror, is there a little bit of difficulty in not going that hammy
Funny.
route?
Yeah, right. Because they're different. Yeah, I had to play these two very different. And they both talk, so therefore they both have a Transylvanian accent. Well, so Count Orlok, I had to try to make his accent more realistic. The Baron, I mispronounce everything on
Yeah.
purpose and make it as funny as I can. So it was it's been semi-easy to draw the line between the two, and the darkness of Nosferatu and the pathos of him and the agony that he's living in. He's a true reflection of vampires and how they became what they are, reflecting on their life. What have I done to myself? I think Count Orlok goes on that journey throughout Nosferatu, a symphony of horror, and kind of when he gets burned up in the sun at the end, which is not a spoiler because that's how the
Yeah.
silent film ends as well. It's with kind of uh, a tortured heart. What have I done? And I hear this woman, Ellen, in the movie, played by Sarah Carter, who did a beautiful job. Once I finally get to her after my travels, and she's like the ultimate, of all my conquests. This is the one that I've set in my mind as like the cherry on the top of dessert. And when I get to her and have drunk from her blood. It's like, well, did that satisfy really? I don't know. And now the sun's coming in the window. So do I just, part of me wanted to get out of the room before the sun burned me up. The other part was like, well, if it does, I reached my ultimate goal. It wasn't all that I'd hoped for in the end, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe I deserve to die at this point. So I kind of had to lace some humanity into Nosferatu. That with the Baron on What We Do in the Shadows, it's all just for the funny, just as
Yeah.
right.
Well, and I know your performances are always so movement based, and sometimes you aren't even able to speak. And Count Orlok and Max Schreck's performance, I assume, are big inspirations for you. So, what was it like to be able to get into that role, and why do you think that Schreck's performance of Orlok is just so timeless?
It is time. He was ahead of his time as a silent film actor. Because silent film actors, were very overdone and very dramatic, of course. But he had something very real happening at the same time. His eyes were just so like entrancing. You wanted to get in there. What's his story? Why is he this way? He was fascinating to me. And if you look at him, by the way, if you when you rewatch the silent film, he never once blinked. So when I played him in our remake, our remake is a scene for scene replica of that original silent film, but with sound, dialogue, new actors, musical score, the whole thing. So we were done in black and white with a green screen element that we brought in the old movie digitally, so we got to play in the same environment that the old actors did. So with that, I also wanted to strike the same imagery and the same iconic moments that Max Schreck did. So what was that like? Yes, it was intimidating because there's no way to not make a comparison. Max Schreck, Doig Jones, and the comparisons continue because other people had played him over the years in that 1970s version, and of course Willem Dafoe in Shadow of the Vampire did such a gorgeous job. And now with this other Nosferatu, very confusing, coming out in December in theaters with Bill Skarsgård in that role. Big fan of his. I know he's going to kill it as well. There's comparisons are inevitable.
Yeah.
But so that makes it rather intimidating. You want to make sure that your version of Nosferatu is memorable and is honors the original, but also gives it your own spin. Whatever, all that had to come into play.
Yeah. Well, and when you see a big studio version of the Nosferatu story being released around the same time, is
Mhm.
that a concern or is it more cool, free advertising?
Right. Well, the only concern is the confusion because
Yeah.
once on my socials, I'd be, hey, look for Nosferatu, a symphony of horror coming to Apple TV and Amazon, and it's like, hey, I think I saw something about that already. I'm like, well, which one did you see? So that confusion is really ever present right now. So that's why every post that I do and every interview that I do, I make sure this is not to be confused with the other one. But I feel no competitive bone in my body about this. I think there's room. Vampire lovers love vampires no matter what. Can you have too much? No, you cannot. So I think that there's room for our Nosferatu in October and Robert Eggers' version of Nosferatu in December. And I think that vampire fans are going to watch and consume both and hopefully find something good about both of them. Because I'm excited to see the other one as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't wait. That should. I've seen the trailer a couple times, and it seems to be
Yeah.
very. It seems like they're doing a very similar thing to what you guys are. So, there's the one thing that I was very curious about was since this is a like remix of the original Nosferatu, and you guys are essentially recreating scene for scene.
Mhm.
Do you find that to be constraining in terms of your performance, where you're then just trying to mimic, or are you still able to like I guess lose yourself in the part?
Yeah, a little bit of both, honestly, because there did have to be some mimicry done, especially trying to find those strike those iconic moments that Max Schreck did. For instance, when I came, standing up out of the coffin, about stiff as a board, or going up the staircase with my shadow on the wall, or at the very end pose when he goes in front of the window and like he kind of grabs his heart and puts his hand out. If there's a very specific pose I wanted to find my way into. So that's a combination of, yes, I want to mimic those physicalities, but also give it a fresh, real take of why he's getting to that pose, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Well, what was your favorite moment to recreate?
Oh golly. I oh I loved the conversation when I got a couple of moments, but I really, really loved the conversation when young Thomas, played by Emery Cooper, who did a beautiful job, when he is this young real estate broker guy who comes to find me and sign the paperwork with me for the house that I bought across the street for him back home. He's in my castle, and we're just the two of us, and he's kind of freaked out by my presence and by what's not going on during the day, what is happening at night. Weird. It was an odd stay for him at my castle. So our conversations at the table and were very him trying to like while the count is being very my pauses were long, my eye
Hmm.
looking around were long, and trying to finding story in those quiet moments. You don't have to always be yapping to tell a story. The Count Orlok tells a whole story with his quiet times, with his silence, and so much going through his mind, so much. And he said he was about to sign the paperwork and says, "Do you have the time?" And he grabs the pocket watch from young Thomas, and he sees the picture of young Ellen in there, his wife, and that's when it's like, he felt a draw, and this is why. Now he has a photo proof of why he wants to go move to this other country and live across the street from the ultimate catch, right?
Yeah.
So that was such a lovely moment where, I have a very specific intention and I'm trying to hide it, but not do it, from Thomas. And he's like, something's wrong here. Love that. And also that final scene too, when I finally get to her. I got to finally be on screen at the same time with my former co-star from Falling Skies, Sarah Carter, who played Ellen, and she was in the movie because I want to pat myself on the back and say like I suggested her for the role and I asked her, would you want to play this? None of us are going to get rich off of this, but what do you think? And she was like, yes. It was something new she hadn't done before, so I was very, very happy. So that crescendo moment where she's, I've gotten into her head, and she's made herself available to me to come across the street and now finally have our moment together. And so there I am just munching on her neck, and they lingered on that for a while, and it was kind of sensual and kind of grotesque all at the same time. It plays with your feelings, and so that was a lovely moment to find Max Schreck in again,
Yeah.
and a little bit of Doug Jones.
Yeah. Well, I really like the movie itself, and let's move on to another film that you did. This would have been what, 2 years ago at this point. Uh,
Mhm.
Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah.
So I imagine it being a blast to revisit the Billy Butcherson character 30 years later. And so I have to
Yes.
ask, what was it like to be involved in a film that has such annual replayability and this uncanny ability to connect with new generations?
Right, right. Well, thank you for that, for feeling that about Hocus Pocus. The Hocus Pocus 1, the first movie, has become something like a Wizard of Oz was for me when I was a kid. It was an annual television event. This is before we had home video or streaming or no on demand. I want to watch that now. I can watch it now.
Yeah.
You had to wait for it to come on TV, right? So once a year, we looked at the TV listings, and here comes Wizard of Oz. You popped the corn on the stove top, and you got the Kool-Aid out, and you all sat around and waited for the Wizard of Oz on TV. Hoc so few movies do that now for us. Hocus Pocus is an annual sit down, have a viewing party with your friends, make all the Halloween candy corn and the treats, dress up as your favorite character from the movie, and these viewings. And I get tagged in all these social media posts. Hey, we're having a Hocus Pocus party. Click, tag, tag. Love it, love it, love it. To be a part of people's growing up, their childhoods that have now become adults, and now they're bringing their kids up on Hocus Pocus. That's That's a dream for any actor to be a part of such a product like that.
Yeah.
Then the popularity of it that all created was it what enabled us to make Hocus Pocus 2 that came out in 2022. And this month, of course, it's very exciting because this is the first time that it's come off Disney Plus, and I mean it's still on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
but it's also visiting Freeform channel. So for it's available for broadcast TV viewers as a double feature with Hocus Pocus 1, like all month throughout the month, at various airings. So this Hocus Pocus franchise lives on and on and on and on. I'm grateful, so grateful to the fans for connecting with it, watching it, loving it, letting it be a part of their lives and their families.
Well, and was there any concern, like before when there was rumblings of two, was there any concern from you of not being brought back as Billy Butcherson?
But yeah, I never knew, and
Never.
and now there's rumblings of a Hocus Pocus 3, of course, because
Yes.
Disney did put out a press release saying that it's in development. Does that mean any of us immortals are coming back again? We don't know. I don't know until, and I didn't know about Hocus Pocus 2 until late in the game.
Yeah.
They waited to call me and offer me my Billy role back until the three ladies had been secured with contracts. So Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy and Jimmy, until they were all contracted and done and dusted, they weren't going to open the books up for all the rest of us. So I was contacted just a mere few months before filming started. So Hocus Pocus 3, would that happen again? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do if they do call, absolutely. The answer is when do I start?
Yeah, I think the last that anyone said anything about it was Bette Midler, and she was like, "Come on, Disney, send me a script. I want to do this. We're not getting any younger." So it's like, yeah, let's get this going.
None of us are. Can I? Yeah.
Well, and you've had such a wide range of roles over your career. Is there any dream role that you haven't gotten to play yet but would love to?
Yeah, well, as far as like the kind of characters I'm known for, the dream role that I wanted to play is with the one that's out now, Nosferatu. Count Orlok was my bucket list. Oh my gosh, I want to play him. And now that I have, it's like, oh, there's such satisfaction with that. Now my dream role is out of that wheelhouse. I want to play a human dad on a Hallmark or Great American Family Christmas movie with very light stakes. Where I'm the dad of a grown woman who's having some relationship issues, and the worst problem they have is a little misunderstanding. And I help give her some sound fatherly advice with a cup of cocoa in my hand and a sweater with reindeer on it. And I tell her how proud her mother must be of her because, of course, she's passed away. And I did the whole. I want all the tropes in the Christmas movies. Yeah.
Film it in Boulder in July, and you'll be all set.
That's just it. They film those in the summer with fake snow on the ground and sweaters, and you're sweating. Yeah, I want all of that. I want all of that. Yeah.